She's ready.
I think it'll be better if you look at each other.
You're so fun. I'm sitting here with Warren Bittner. He's one of our specialists. Having been a student of the principles of self-mastery that we have worked on for several decades, we find it necessary, expedient to customize our training for that with different populations as we go. Warren and I met 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Warren has had an association with a unique set of men who are, as I've been taught, strongly desiring to be covenant-keeping men. Men who have their own version of attraction, distraction. Satan doesn't mind if he uses alcohol. He doesn't mind if he uses drugs. He doesn't mind if he uses the opposite sex. He doesn't mind if he uses the same sex to draw one away from that which is important to them. And so, contrary to popular belief in our culture, in the American culture, the experience of same-sex attraction is extremely misunderstood. Can you tell us a little bit about this group of valiant men?
By and large, the men that attend our Sons of Sacrifice group are Latter-day Saints. They identify as gay or same-sex attracted, and they have testimonies of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they want to stay active in the church and live a lifestyle that will allow them to keep their covenant.
So we're talking about what? 1 out of 300, 1 out of 500?
1 out of 20.
That can't be true. Everybody knows that's not true. How come we don't know that it's 1 out of 20?
Because there is so much shame, self-shaming, and societal shaming, and church shaming, that the majority of men and women in the LGBTQ spectrum tell anyone about it, or at least don't tell anyone at church about it. The studies show, yes, as in the population at large, where it's about 1 in 20, studies of members of the church show the same general statistic, about 1 in 20.
Okay, so you say you have this group that you're running called the Sons of Sacrifice.
Yes.
Everybody knows that the purpose of group therapy is to fix these types of men. Everybody knows that the goal is to do some smoke and mirrors technique to get them to stop being gay.
I'm sitting here shaking my head at you.
Why? But everybody knows that.
No, there is nothing wrong with sexuality as it happens in an individual. I think sexuality is as individual and different as fingerprints. And if a man is in general attracted to other men, that's the way God let it happen in his life.
God made it happen?
God let it happen, and it's not going to change. And fighting it, trying to change it, wishing it away, praying it away, pray away the gay doesn't work.
Then what's the point of your group if it isn't to fix their gayness?
It is to help them find a way to be comfortable as an active member of the church, covenant-keeping, temple recommend holding member of the church who happens to be gay or happens to be attracted to the same gender. In my group, we have men who are married, we have men who are single, we have men who are divorced. Age range runs from 19 to 70. They live all across the country. We meet online.
What does it mean for a man experiencing same-sex attraction to seek for sexual self-mastery? What does that mean?
Any behavior in their life that's going to keep them from getting a temple recommend, basically. We don't look at attraction at all. We look at behavior.
Isn't the attraction a sin?
No. I'm sorry to huff at you, but no, it is not.
But I've heard it was. So what is a sin?
Sin is sexual interaction outside of the marriage covenant. Any sexual behavior is inappropriate for a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
So you tried to guilt these men into feeling bad about their behavior?
We are not a guilt-based program. We try very hard to have no shame. One of the things that makes men hesitant to join my group is a sense of shame. They have not come out to their bishops or their wards, sometimes not to their wives, and sometimes barely to themselves. And they come into my group with a great deal of shame. And we try to make our meetings completely non-shame based. Some of the men come in and are so fearful, ashamed, that they don't even turn their cameras on. They don't use their real names, not at first. They're still there attending 30 meetings later because they are, one of the things they need and want so desperately is community. Somebody that can relate to them. There are very few, if any, role models, gay men who are active in the church. Man can't go to his bishop or his elders quorum president or his ministering brother and say, oh, by the way, I'm attracted to men, and get the response, oh, I understand where you're coming from. There are no role models. But in my group, we have men who are successfully living lives, covenant-keeping lives, and there's community. There is tight bonding brotherhood among the men in my groups.
How do you motivate them without using shame or guilt? Isn't that how you're supposed to motivate them?
What motivates them is the feeling they get when they have the Spirit of the Lord with them, or they are watching other men grow in their interactions with the Spirit, and they're motivated and say, oh, this man is getting his temple recommend back. I want that experience too.
What makes this group, Sons of Sacrifice, different from the others? There's so many support groups and so many friendly. I've heard something about your groups having some drills or some technique. Why is that relevant?
We're trying to change behavior, and we take the behavior back to feelings, and before feelings, thought, so that the thoughts aren't following the course of least resistance. The thoughts are following the route that the individual chooses. And we do practice drills of what do I do if my feelings are going in the wrong direction, or if my thoughts are going in the wrong direction. Not the direction that I choose. What can I do? And that's what the drills are for. And the drills are the same for the straight men as they are the gay men. A straight man's mind can go south just as easily as a gay man's mind can head south.
You're telling us that the goal isn't to rewire their attraction system, but your goal is to change behavior. Like all of their behaviors? Like which behaviors are we referring to here?
Self-abuse or sexual activity with other people outside of the marriage covenant. Men come in wanting to eliminate those things from their life. And to a large part, we let them define what that is. They'll change their definition over time, but they come in with a predetermined set of behaviors they want to change.
So they want to change the behavior, not because someone told them to?
Absolutely. Many of them come in with what I would term almost a self-loathing. They hate things about themselves, and that doesn't sit well. It's not good for them, short-term or long-term. So many men with same-sex attraction, that attraction has been public enemy number one. They've tried to stuff it down, they've tried to pray it away, they've tried to ignore it, and our response is acknowledge it. You don't have to open up and come out to anyone else, but it's okay if you have those attractions. They're honest sexual feelings that are probably going to be with you all of your life.
Society says you shouldn't even try to control them, just let them take you to wherever they take you. Why do you disagree with that?
Society says that any sexual behavior is acceptable. But as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have certain behaviors that are not within the covenants of the gospel.
And this is supposed to be enjoyable to wear handcuffs like that? To force yourself to live a certain way? You're supposed to be able to like that?
I think anyone who goes to the temple knowing they've kept their covenant is going to feel joy. That's not to say that's an immediate joy, or that it's going to happen in the first 3 weeks or the first 3 years. It's interesting to watch the men in my program come in so discouraged, so down on themselves, so hopeless, and watch them week after week make just incremental changes where they're feeling the Spirit of God more in their life. Their behaviors are a little bit more in line. They are aware of negative thoughts that get them down, and they're just slowly feeling better. And then they look back over 3 months or 6 months and they can see the change in themselves, but everyone else in the group can see the change in them. We take about 20 minutes to half an hour where we will usually deal with some type of masculinity, male relationship issue. So many of the men come into my program with a feeling of inadequacy with other men, or that they don't have the male friendships that they wish they had. There's nothing sexual about it, but there's, a hesitancy about interacting with men.
I remember some agonizing conversations you and I had many years ago when we were talking about whether or not to do the hard work to create such a service, because we knew there would be so much resistance. Would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit of that background that has given you motivation?
Right when you and I started meeting, one of my best friends committed suicide. He was married with 6 kids, active in the church, but his behavior was getting increasingly in contradiction with the teachings of the church. And he just reached the point where he couldn't handle it anymore. Broke my heart and the heart of dozens of his friends, and of course devastated his wife and kids. The whole idea that a man can be gay and keep their covenants is that it increases suicidal ideation. And I find that really the opposite is true. If a man comes in and gets their behaviors into control, the thoughts of suicide that might have been haunting them tend to diminish. It doesn't mean that dealing with LGBTQ issues aren't heart-wrenching.
As you think about these men and what their set of spiritual gifts can do not only for others with same-sex attraction, but for the whole community, what do you see?
Oh, I see the gay men and women of the church are absolutely essential. They are an integral part of the church. My hope is that we can reach a point where everyone in the church realizes that members they see and love and interact with every week happen to have attractions to the same gender, or happen to have transgender issues, and it doesn't affect their position in the kingdom at all.
What is the next step for them to begin to hang out with you and your men?
Our website is sonsofsacrifice.org.
What if you're not ready to enroll? Is there any intermediate step?
Yes, if you click enroll now and say I'm not ready to enroll.
There's a button, I'm not ready to enroll?
No, there's a button that says enroll, but then you can say I'm not ready to enroll, I would like to just observe. The enroll now puts them in touch with me.
Oh.
And then I can email with them, text them, talk to them on the phone, explain the program a little bit, sound them out to see if it's a good fit, and then if they want to observe anonymously, we encourage that.
So you don't automatically have to throw yourself out there just by filling out the enroll thing?
No.
We're going to talk about it first?
We're going to talk about it first, and you can stay anonymous if you want to.